Imagine waking up one morning to find that the unthinkable had happened overnight. The towering concrete barrier that had divided your city, your country, and the entire world for nearly 3 decades was suddenly being torn apart by ordinary people with nothing but their bare hands and sheer determination. This wasn't just any wall, it was the Berlin Wall, the most visible symbol of the Cold War. A brutal divide between democracy and communism, between freedom and oppression. And yet, on November 9, 1989, it fell almost without warning. But why? What really caused this infamous barrier to crumble so suddenly? The story begins in the aftermath of World War II, when Germany was split into 4 occupied zones controlled by the victorious Allies, the United States, Britain, France, and the Soviet Union. Berlin, though deep inside Soviet-controlled East Germany, was similarly divided. Tensions between the Soviet Union and the Western powers quickly escalated, and by 1949, Germany had formally split into 2 separate countries: West Germany, a democratic nation allied with the West, and East Germany, a communist state under Soviet control. For over a decade, East Germans unhappy with life under communism fled to the West in droves, often through Berlin, where the border was still relatively open. By 1961, nearly 3.5 million people, about 20% of East Germany's population, had escaped. The Soviet-backed East German government knew it had to act. On the night of August 13, 1961, without warning, they sealed off West Berlin with barbed wire, which was soon replaced by a massive concrete wall, guard towers, armed soldiers, and a deadly death strip filled with landmines and attack dogs made crossing nearly impossible. Families were torn apart overnight. Over the next 28 years, at least 140 people would die trying to escape over, under, or through the Berlin Wall. So how did this seemingly unshakable symbol of oppression come crashing down so suddenly? The answer lies in a combination of political shifts, economic failures, and, most importantly, the courage of ordinary people who refused to accept the status quo any longer. By the 1980s, the Soviet Union was in deep trouble. Its economy was stagnant, its people were growing restless, and its leader, Mikhail Gorbachev, knew something had to change. He introduced 2 major reforms: glasnost openness and perestroika restructuring, hoping to modernize the Soviet system without abandoning communism entirely. But instead of saving the regime, these reforms unleashed a wave of demands for greater freedom across Eastern Europe. East Germany, long considered one of the most rigid communist states, was particularly resistant to change. Its leader, Erich Honecker, stubbornly insisted that the Berlin Wall would stand for another 100 years. But the people of East Germany were growing increasingly frustrated. Shortages of basic goods, constant surveillance by the secret police, the Stasi, and the inability to travel freely made life unbearable for many. Then, in the summer of 1989, something unexpected happened. Hungary, another communist country, began dismantling its border fence with Austria. Suddenly, East Germans saw a way out. Thousands fled to Hungary, then crossed into Austria and onto West Germany. Protests erupted across East Germany, with people chanting "Wir wollen raus," "We want out," and "Wir sind das Volk," "We are the people." The government, desperate to stop the exodus, tried to crack down, but the movement was too powerful. On November 9, 1989, a bureaucratic mistake changed history. A high-ranking East German official, Gunter Schabowski, mistakenly announced at a press conference that travel restrictions to the West would be lifted immediately. When asked when the new rules would take effect, he hesitated, then said, "As far as I know, effective now, without delay." The news spread like wildfire. Within hours, thousands of East Berliners rushed to the border crossings, demanding to be let through. The guards, confused and with no clear orders, eventually gave in. People climbed onto the wall, hugging strangers, crying, and cheering. Some brought hammers and began chipping away at the concrete. The world watched in stunned silence as the symbol of division was transformed into a scene of pure joy. But the real reason the Berlin Wall fell wasn't just because of political reforms or economic pressure, it was because the people of East Germany had simply had enough. They no longer feared their government, they no longer believed in the lies they had been told. And when the moment came, they acted with breathtaking courage. In the days and weeks that followed, the wall was systematically torn down, piece by piece, by ordinary citizens. Less than a year later, East and West Germany were officially reunified. The Cold War, which had defined global politics for nearly half a century, was coming to an end. The fall of the Berlin Wall teaches us something powerful about human nature. No wall, no matter how heavily guarded, can withstand the will of people who yearn for freedom. It wasn't just a victory for Germany, it was a victory for all of humanity. Today, pieces of the Berlin Wall stand in museums and public spaces around the world, a reminder of what happens when people refuse to be divided. But it also raises an important question. What walls still exist in our world today, physical or invisible, and what will it take for us to tear them down? The story of the Berlin Wall proves one thing: when people stand together, no barrier is too strong to break.
Hey there, if you're enjoying this video and appreciate the effort behind it, don't forget to like this video. It really helps the channel grow, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications so you never miss an update. Oh, and one more thing, share this video with your friends. Spread the love and support. Alright, now let's get back to the video. Let me know if you want any tweaks.